Hi, and welcome to another episode of Casual Learning. I'm your host, John Bannan. So, what's with getting recruited by colleges for track and field? Well, you know, you may be a high schooler and you may have various reasons why you may want to continue your track and field career in college. Um, Maybe you're some fantastic athlete and you're going to do really well in college and you want to make a name for yourself. That's a good reason to run in college. um, Maybe you like the sport and you want to continue in competition in that sport, or it's fun and it's something you'd like to do. Maybe you're thinking about scholarship money, athletic scholarship money. That may be another reason you want to get recruited to run or do a field event in college. So there's good reasons for doing it. So how do you get recruited by a college? Well, the first thing that you need to know is college coaches are interested in your times or your distances, uh, and they want to know whether you could score points for them. A college coach, it's his or her job, and they have an interest in keeping their job. They have an interest perhaps in moving up, going to a better college, making more money. So they're gonna be very concerned with how well the team does, because their career and livelihoods depend on it. How their team does uh, shows up at the big meets and where their teams place in their league or at the meet relative to the other teams that competed or perhaps rival schools. And, the more points they score at a meet, the better they do. So fundamentally, a college coach wants to know, can you score a point for my team? Because if you can, then I'm interested in getting you on my team. If you can't, well, you know, better luck some other school. Maybe some other school can use you. So, what kind of times and distances do you need? Well, in part, that depends on what kind of college program or level of program you're trying to get recruited by. But generally speaking, you want to be an elite runner or an elite thrower or jumper or pole vaulter. So you need to know what elite times are. And there are various organizations that set standards on elite times. The college itself may have its own set of standards for what they consider elite, essentially recruited athletes, scholarship athletes. You can actually ask a coach to give you their printout of what times or distances they consider a scholarship athlete, or maybe a walk-on. They may have a column for walk-ons. So, but a great place to get a very good idea of what these elite times are is milesplit.com. Milesplit.com. Now, every state has its own version of this. This is basically dedicated, for the most part, to high school track and field, although it does include statistics for middle school and even college. But high schoolers use this a lot. This is a great resource. And if you're a serious runner and you're interested in getting recruited, you should subscribe to this. I think it may be like $60 a year or something like that, but it's well worth the money. Now, MileSplit has its own listing of elite times, and they put them in two categories. There's the silver category, and then there's the gold category. So you have silver elite times and gold elite times. For distances, they have elite distances for throwers, elite heights, pole vaulters, and elite distances for jumpers. So you got basically these two broad categories of elite times or distances. What does that mean? What does that mean, silver or gold? Well, gold is better than silver. All right. Well, what does it mean? Basically, an elite time or distance is what you would need to run or throw to score 1 point at a collegiate meet. The silver level is really for collegiate meets that aren't the absolute top meets. Maybe these are D3 meets, or maybe these are mid-level NCAA Division I meets, or lower tier Division I meets, or Division II meets. Gold is for high-level Division I meets. If you want to go to a great track and field school, well, you better be hitting gold, because that's what they're interested in. So, in a recruiting process, the coach may look up your profile under MileSplit and see, did you hit gold? And in what event? Did you hit silver? And in what event? That's what you're looking for. So it's important to have your profile under MileSplit developed. And the only one's going to develop it is you. Maybe you put your photo in there and you attach videos. MileSplit sometimes will upload videos taken at meets, and you can attach that to your profile. So anybody who looks at your profile can also find these videos that show you. Or photographs, same thing. Or articles that were written about you. But your profile in MileSplit is going to contain all of your statistics. At least the fat times. What's a fat time? FAT, fat time. That stands for fully automated time. Fully automated time. When you go to a meet, you may see that there's some company recording everybody's finishing times. And they're doing it electronically. Maybe you see some cameras set up, some people sitting at a table with, looks like little computers maybe that they're working on. And what they're doing is they have a software program and a recognition program to be able to tell the runners apart electronically and what their times were. And those times may be recorded by, in some cases, an electronic chip that's included in the bib that you're wearing, let's say, in a cross-country race or on a shoe tag. Or it may just be numbers, stickers, that you place on your uniform when you start the race. And the computer can tell who it is wearing this number, and they know who that person is, and they can figure out what your time was. So it's all done electronically, and they know within hundredths of a second exactly how fast it took you to run that race. And college coaches, they want to see fat times. They don't want to see your claim of a certain handheld time, right? You go to some meet and there's some official standing there at the end of the race and he's clicking his watch and he's saying, well, she ran blah, 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 or he ran blah, blah, blah. college coaches don't want to see your hand times because the hand time is only as honest as the person holding the watch. And for the college coach doesn't want to stake his career on whether this particular person was competent in taking times or knew what they were doing or was honest. So college coaches, they want to see fat times. They want to see those distances that show up under mile split under your profile. At a big meet, the distances are likely to be more accurate, even though they're not electronic. Nonetheless, since it's a big meet, everybody's taking it much more seriously. They're likely to be much more accurate than, let's say, some distance you threw at one of your school's dual meets. So this is really important. So the college coach is going to look you up on mile split, see your profile, see what your times were, and see what you ran. So in terms of silver, in terms of gold, what events it were, or it was that you ran these elite times in, or if you didn't run elite times at all, what was your PR? What was your fastest time or your best distance? Okay, what was your PR? Well, mile split will also tell you that because some college teams, they're lower down in terms of how good they are, and maybe they're not even demanding silver. They'll take people with good PRs. Some college teams, they'll basically take anybody. If that's the college you're talking about, maybe all you got to really do is just show an interest and show some experience, and they'll let you on. But don't expect any money out of this school. But nonetheless, if you like running, you can still do that. So, the college coaches, their jobs are on the line on how well their team does, and they want to get the best runners they can get, or throwers that they can get, because those people can score points for them in these big meets, and their jobs and careers depend on that. These college coaches, they're constantly recruiting people, and in their minds, they have a list of who their top recruits are and who maybe middle recruit and walk-on recruits maybe. Chances are they're not going to tell you who they're looking at. They're keeping that to themselves. You can ask, but don't expect much of an answer. So they have in mind, they have an idea of who they want, what kind of times they're looking for. But they're looking for times, basically. So if they can find a person with this time, they get them. They want that person. It's not so much about the person's personality or how much they like that person. It's the fact they ran a gold time and they won. You may hear from college coaches about whether this person fits on the team or not. I don't think that's the major criteria that they use. They use these. This is what they use. It is just sort of do you have the personality where you're coachable, where the other people on the team can stand you? But if you got this time here, hey, watch it. they're gonna look the other way on a lot of things because you got this. So what can you get out of recruiting? You might get a partial scholarship or maybe even a full scholarship if you are a great track and field athlete. Let's say you're gold elite. Yeah, you might be looking at a full scholarship somewhere. Generally speaking, though, they're partial scholarships. What's a partial scholarship? That could be anything from book money, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, something like that. What else could you get out of it? Well, a good reason to run track and field in college is because it helps you get in the door of a particular college. let's say an elite college who has 20,000 applicants, and they got plenty of people to choose from that are just like you. Why would they choose you? Well, a good reason is that you're being recruited by the track and field team. And the track coach has told the admissions office, hey, I'm recruiting this person. They're a top prospect. Well, that's a good reason to let you in the doors. So you might be able to get into a really good school that you otherwise didn't. It's kind of a chance of getting into, but not a great chance. Because you're being recruited. Now, college coaches may only have one or two recruits that they can do that with, where they can just tell the admissions office, I'm recruiting this person, they're a high priority, and the admissions office, good chance they're going to let them in. But admissions offices, they have their job to do, and if you don't have decent grades, and a decent SAT score, or decent ACT score, and a decent college resume, they're not letting you in. Even if you're a gold elite runner and the track coach really wants you. The track coach has some pull in admissions, but he or she can't simply get anybody they want admitted to the school. They can't. So you still have to go through admissions. It's just that the admissions process gets easier if you're a recruited athlete or if you're one of the top prospects. You still, when you look at the colleges you're interested in, you still need to consider how hard it is to get into that school and what that school demands in terms of GPA and SAT scores and other things. Because if you're not close, or maybe in the bottom 25% of their ranges, you're not going to get any, even if you are a gold elite runner. So college coaches have a lot of problems with admissions offices nixing a lot of their recruits because they just academically don't stand up. Just there's too much. They're too far from what this college generally admits, and you're out of luck. So you can be a great gold elite runner, but that doesn't mean you're guaranteed to get in any school you want. You still have to have the good SAT scores and GPA. And if you're not a top prospect, then you better practically be able to get admitted to that school on your own, regardless of whether you can run on the track team or not. Now, in colleges athletics, there's three divisions basically: NCAA Division I, Division II, and Division III. Division I has the track and field teams that are the best. So their top track and field teams are the best collegiate track and field teams there are. But they also have middle tier Division I teams and lower tier Division I teams. Division II, it doesn't have as many colleges as Division I and Division III. So I'm not really going to talk about them. And then you have Division III, which their top track and field teams in Division III could be comparable to, let's say, a mid-tier D1 school. But the big difference between D1 and D3 is D1 schools can give you athletic scholarship money. D3 schools can't. They're not allowed to. But there's a price to pay for that. The D1 schools are subject to a lot of NCAA regulations with regard to recruiting that the D3 schools aren't. Here's the thing. You say, well, I want athletic scholarship money. I want to get a scholarship for running, therefore I can only go to a D1 school. That's really not a smart move. It may be that some D3 schools that are just as good offer a lot more in financial aid, and you could go there because the aid that they give you is equivalent to what you would have gotten in an athletic scholarship anyway. And the thing with athletic scholarships is that, let's say you get injured and you can't run anymore. Well, the coach could take it away from you. Will the coach take it away from you? Some do, some don't. Maybe that's something you want to ask the coach. What if I get injured? My freshman year, are you still going to give me a scholarship my sophomore year? Or is it bye-bye? Whereas in D3 school, that will never happen to you. Because there is no athletic scholarship to revoke. You got a financial aid package, just like all the other students who are going to that school, except you happen to also be running on the team. So you may say, well, why should I bother running if they're not going to give me athletic scholarships? Well, there's good reasons to run. You may like the sport. You might do really, really well. It's something to do. You like to compete at a higher level. Maybe there's a coach at that school who's really, really good, and you're going to learn something more about running from that you could have learned from your high school coach. Maybe you like winning. There's good reasons to do it either way. In terms of recruiting, getting recruited, getting elite times is the number one thing to do. Do this! And you're going to have college coaches interested in recruiting. So that's the first thing. A lot of recruiting can be done on your own. Do it yourself. You don't have to rely on your high school coach to get recruited to a college. Not at all. And it's actually very easy to get recruited today. There are lots of ways to do it electronically through the internet. Now, your college coach may have certain connections with certain, your high school coach may have certain connections with certain college coaches and may be able to get you through the door in that particular college. That might be useful. But you don't have to rely on that. And, maybe you want to go to a different school than what your high school coach wants you to go to. Well, it's your life. You should go to the school that you and your parents want you to go to. You don't have to do what your high school coach tells you to do. I mean, it's your life, not your coach's life. So it's really simple to get recruited. There are some websites that will allow you to create a profile that college coaches will look at, and they may contact you because they liked your profile. One of them, NCSA, it's free. You can set up a free profile, and you might as well because it's free, and you might, who knows, you might get some college coach interested in you that you like just from that. But there's even easier ways to do it. Every college track and field team, generally speaking, has a website, and on that website, you might find their roster, but you'll also find something called a recruiting questionnaire. And what you do is you fill out the recruiting questionnaire and you submit it. And the college coach is going to look at it. And if he or she likes what they see, they may contact you, send you an email, maybe a letter. Sometimes a lot of these recruiting letters also include a form questionnaire for you to fill out and send to them. But that's an indicator that a college coach is interested in perhaps recruiting you. And it doesn't cost you anything to fill out recruiting questionnaires, and you can send it to as many schools as you want. Pick what schools you're interested in going to, and fill out their recruiting questionnaires. It doesn't cost you anything. And submit it, and set it and forget it. And who knows? You may get some responses from it. Uh, that's a superb way of getting recruited. You don't need your high school head coach to do that at all. And the recruiting process itself is a little tricky in the sense that college coaches like to play games with how much interest they have in you. So you sort of have to figure out on your own, how much interest does this coach really have in recruiting me? Is there a heavy interest? Is this somebody who's going to give me a lot of scholarship money? Am I a top prospect for this person? Or is this just sort of a minor sort of interest? So how do you figure that out? Well, how do you figure out how much interest the college coach has? Well, the process usually begins with either you receive a letter from a college coach with a recruiting questionnaire for you to fill out, or you fill out the recruiting questionnaire online and submit it, and then you get an email from the coach. And yeah, these coaches send out letters to potential recruits, and the recruit never asked them to send the letter. So these college coaches are using some sort of database where they're getting your information, your contact information, and they're doing it on their own. They're trying to recruit you on their own. So if you get a letter from a college coach, that's a pretty good indication they have a lot of interest in you, because they had to find you to do that. You didn't ask them, so they must have some interest because they put some effort into finding you. Maybe not a whole lot of effort, but some effort. The other way, you submit the recruiting questionnaire. The coach emails you, and the emails you get can vary. Some can be very general updates, for instance, on what the team is doing, that college team is doing. Very general. It's not really specific to you. That sort of shows a very general interest in you, because after all, how much does it cost to send a bulk email to all these people who sent in recruiting forms? It doesn't cost anything. So that's a very mild interest at best. Or you can get an email that is more specific to you, where the coach is addressing you specifically and talking to you about you potentially running for their team. Now, these are often bulk emails as well. They just cut and paste people's names into these emails and they send those out. But that's showing a little bit more interest than the general update on the team email. Maybe, and then you get further instructions from the coach. If you're interested, email me back or call me. Okay. Then you may get the email where it's very specific. It was written, specifically for you by the coach. And then the coach may say something like, I really like to talk to you. What time is good for you? I'll give you a call. Now, that's a really good indication that they're heavily interested in recruiting you. If the coach wants to talk to you over the phone, then that coach is very interested in you running for their team. So let's say you email them back, and I can talk to you Wednesday at 6:00 or whatever, or maybe you call them, or maybe they call you. That happens too. And then you have a phone conversation. You have a phone conversation with the coach. That is an that coach is definitely interested in recruiting you. No doubt about it. They're not going to waste their breath with people that they're not that interested in having run for them. That doesn't tell you how much money they would give you or how high a recruit you may be on their pecking order. But it does tell you they're very interested in having you run for them. If you're in a phone conversation with the coach, that's pretty high up there in terms of interest. So then, what might happen after the phone conversation? The phone conversation, they may talk to you about, well, what have you been doing in running, and what do you like to run, and just general sort of coaching chit chat with an athlete. That's really just a sort of a get to know you session, and demonstrate your interest, and the coach is demonstrating his or her interest in you. That's all it is. So then, what generally happens next? Well, the next steps are, okay, you go on an informal visit to that college, and you meet with the coach. Sometimes these college teams have open houses, pre-scheduled open houses, where all potential recruits are going to come, and the college coaches are going to talk to them about running for them. And maybe they invite you to an open house. It's an informal visit. Or maybe there isn't an open house, or you missed it, or you can't make it, and they want you to come up and talk to them personally in their office, and they'll show you the facilities. They'll show you around the locker room, the weight room, the track, maybe where they run some cross country, and you'll sit down and you'll talk to them about the whole thing and what you're interested in, and what they see, why they're interested in you, what they see you in terms of running. When you do that, if you want to run for the school, I'm sure they'll take you at that point. But that's not the end. That's not the end of the recruiting process, believe it or not, because there's a good chance they haven't talked money, and they're not going to, unless you're maybe one of these great gold elite runners, and they'll talk money because they really want you bad. If you're not one of them, they're probably going to hold their cards close to their chest. They're not going to talk to you about money. They're going to make you go through some more hoops before they do that. And what's the next hoop? Well, the next hoop is the formal visit. Now, for Division I schools, you're limited to the number of formal visits that you can take to colleges. I think it's 5, and that's sort of a weekend kind of event, an overnighter. You might stay with some of the runners on the team in their dorms, and maybe they give you tickets to a basketball game or football game or something like that. And they'll take you out to eat, show you around, probably with some other recruits that are also coming in that weekend. And it's a pleasant experience. They pay for your transportation there, and your meal and housing while you're there. If they want you for a formal visit, they absolutely want you running for their team. All right, but they may not tell you how much money they're going to give you until the end of the formal visit, or maybe they don't tell you until even after the formal visit. They're really holding that information back. If they're holding it back, it's probably because it's not as much as you hoped it to be, and they don't want to tell you that, and because they could lose you. The second they say, "Well, we're going to give you, $5,000," and you're looking for 15, and you're just like, "Oh, wow, that's not what I was expecting," and now I'm not sure I'm even going to run for you guys. So they wine and dine you a lot before they give you the bad news. Right? Because if it was good news, they should tell you a lot sooner than the end of your formal visit, or even after that. But that's a game you have to play, and for these college coaches, if you want to find out how much money they're going to offer you, you may have to go through all the hoops before they tell you. It's a game they play. Maybe they want to get you on the formal visit, get you to know the other teammates that you might have, so that you feel as if you want to be on this team. Maybe they take a picture of you in their uniform with the other recruits. It's like a keepsake, but the truth is they're trying to get you to think that you're already a member of this team, so your decision becomes automatic. Are you going to run for them? Yeah. Well, we're only offering you $5,000. Are you going to run? Oh, yeah, okay. Because you love it so much. They're trying to sell you on it before they give you the bad news or not so great news. These are marketing tricks. Coaches know them. The athletic departments know them. So you got to play along. But you do this with several colleges. If you're going to get recruited, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Look at you get recruited by, ultimately be serious about a handful of schools. And you can even tell the coaches, look, I'm also being recruited by this other university. Get yourself some leverage, right? It's like, well, you're implying that, hey, you want me? Well, maybe this other school wants me more. Maybe you're going to put up a little more cash if you really want me or not. Yeah. So you play these sort of games. So you shouldn't just get recruited be serious about only one school. You should have a handful that you can play against each other, or at least it appears as if you have leverage. You could go somewhere else. Remember that, coach. I could go somewhere else. So, make me happy. If you want me to run for you, make me happy. Because I can always go somewhere else. So you play those games. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But it's worth doing. It's worth doing, absolutely. Okay. Coaches, you could also run into potential coaches at big meets. Coaches or assistant coaches often go to a state's big meet of the year because they're looking for top prospects. They may be walking around, with a T-shirt that says, whatever university, track and field, coach maybe even. So they're looking around, they're shopping for people. They're watching people run. They're thinking, oh, man, where this person going? I wonder, maybe I'll introduce myself, or maybe they'll come up to me, right? Because they see me and they're interested in getting recruited. So that's another place to meet coaches. It's much easier to do it through the internet. Much more efficient, much easier to do. Because let's say you want to be recruited by a coach on the other coast. Well, that coach isn't going to come to your high school meet. So how do you get recruited by that team? Email. Fill out their recruiting questionnaire. Talk to them on the phone. It's easy. So, but meets are another place you can meet up with coaches. That's true. In terms of when should you run your elite times for recruiting? Well, you can run them whenever, provided that you're done by your junior year, generally speaking. Why is that? Because at the end of your junior year, going into the beginning of your senior year, you're now heavily in the process of applying for colleges. You're figuring out where you're going to go. And you may make that decision, at the end of in November, December, your senior year, January, February, you're making that decision. Where am I going to go to college? So if you want to get recruited, you need to have your elite times done by the end of your junior year. so that the college coaches know what you're capable of when you're involved in that process of deciding what college you want to go to. So it's unfortunately a year early. I mean, ideally, you'd like to have till your end of your senior year to run your best times or throw your best distances, but that's just not how it works. It's really at the end of your junior year that's critical. Now, does that mean you can't get recruited based on your senior times? That's not, you can. There's always exceptions, but generally speaking, you need it done by the end of your junior year. So all your training and your running and your throwing really has to be geared towards hitting those gold or silver elite times by the end of your junior year or distances. That's a pretty tough deadline, but that's what you got to do. So when you're a freshman, you really need to be thinking about getting better, and because you need to be able to achieve this by the end of your junior year. Your coach may think, "What are you talking about? You got till the end of your senior year," or "Oh well, you're not really your best until you're a senior." Well, that's just nonsense. It's just not true. You need those times and distances by the end of your junior year. You do. And don't let some high school coach convince you otherwise. It's true. You do. So work on them. And the drop dead deadline really is the end of your junior year. Any particular college coach is going to have a list of prospects that they're after, and you may or may not know where you are on that list. Chances are the college coach is not going to tell you about the list. It's not going to tell you probably where you're ranked on that list. They might. You can always ask. But be aware that they're always looking at other people. Always. And it may be in different states and people you've never heard of. So that they have people there because it's a numbers game. They got to recruit a certain number of people because a certain number of people just aren't going to come to their school, period. So they have to recruit a much larger number of people than they're ultimately going to take. They have to do that. Otherwise, they're short. They could end up short on the number of people they want on their team. So how good a recruit are you as far as they're concerned? Where are you on that pecking order? Well, you can get a really good idea by looking at the current roster. Who's on the team? What kind of runners or throwers are they? And how do you compare to them? Especially the ones, the newest members of the team, the freshmen, the people who were recruited last year. What are their times and distances? What were their PRs in high school? You can search up their PRs using milesplit.com. You search their name, find out what school they went to. It's easy. You can find out what their PRs. And by doing that, you get a really good idea of what kind of talent they're likely to get, and where do you compare to that level of talent. And that gives you a really good idea of how good a prospect you really are. Because, with college coaches, the higher the prospect you are for them, the more they're willing to do for you, the more money they're going to give you. In some of these college teams, they're huge, huge teams, 50, 60 people on it. Right? Where are you going to fall on that team? You may be a great prospect, but they've got so many great runners, for instance, that you may not see a real race till your junior or senior year because there's so much talent already there. Is that the kind of situation you want to be in? Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe you like the coach so much. Coach knows a lot about your particular event, and you're really excited about being taught by them. Or maybe you're just into the whole, I want to be a D1 runner, and I get on the bus and I get my uniform and I got a locker room and everything. But if you're one of these bigger schools, how much opportunity are you going to have to compete? That's another question you should ask yourself. Um, and because you remember, if you're accepting athletic scholarship money to run, and let's say it's all 3 seasons, cross country, indoor track, outdoor track, um, that college coach owns you for 4 years, and they're going to make you work. They're going to make you work out every day. They're going to make you go to these meets, and you got to handle all that along with your schoolwork, and that's tough. So, you're going to be doing a lot of work for that college coach, and you should get paid for that. Now, I don't mean directly paid, but I mean paid in the terms of athletic scholarship money. There should be a big benefit coming to you for putting in all that effort. And don't sell yourself short or cheap. If you're a really great runner, and the college is not giving you the best deal, go somewhere else who appreciates you more. One of these schools, Division I schools, especially that have lots of members on their team, they can't even give out full scholarships really, because they have to divide it up between all those people, and you're really only looking at a partial scholarship, even if you're a great runner. So keep that in mind. There's always, is it better to be a little fish in a big pond, or a big fish in a little pond? All right. Well, generally speaking, it's better to be a big fish in a little pond. Maybe that D3 school is a better idea because you'll be a big fish. You go to that D1 school and you're a tiny fish. And you may be a tiny fish for all 4 years that you run there. Maybe you're going to be one of these middle tier sort of runners on the team, and you're going to get beat a lot. And is this the life for you? Is it worth it? Maybe, depending on the school. Maybe you really like that school, and that's worth it. This is your way to get into that school. Maybe not. These are things to think about. What's your future going to be like for 4 years of running? Not all colleges have year-round running. Some colleges just have a cross-country team, for instance. Well, why is that? Well, because cross-country is cheap, really. The school doesn't have much of an athletic budget. Cross-country doesn't cost an awful lot, so they may just have a cross-country team, no track team. Because, when you have a track team, wow, you've got lots of meets you got to go to, meet fees, but you got to have a track. Tracks are expensive. You got to maintain a track. You got to have a track. You got to buy a track, build a track. You got, more coaching, more coaches you have to hire for different events. That's more salary. So track and field is much more expensive than just a cross-country team. Cross-country team, you're running in the woods or something. That doesn't really cost them anything. Or you're running on the grounds of the school. That doesn't cost them anything. It's a much cheaper program. But the opportunity is also that, maybe you just run cross-country. You don't run track. And that frees up more time for you to be a student. Maybe you like that aspect, that idea. And maybe be a really great cross-country runner at that school. And maybe you like that idea. So, in terms of, should I go D1 or D3? It really depends. It depends. People generally think more of D1 runners than D3 runners because the best track and field teams are D1. But there's a lot of not so great track and field teams in D1 too, So in the end, think about your life 4 years later and what you'll have. And maybe D3 is worth it. Maybe D3 is the best choice for you. Because in the end, after 4 years, and let's say your running career as far as that sort of competition is done, what do you have left? Well, you could say, I ran in a D1 school. But you could also say, I ran in a D3 school. Are people really going to be more impressed with D1 than D3? Yeah, some people might be slightly more impressed, but what does that really buy you in the end, when you're done with college, so you can brag about going to a D1 instead of a D3. Um, how much is that really going to matter after you graduate? Well, maybe not so much. So yeah, I think you should really consider all different types of schools: D1, D2, D3. Consider them all. Your best option may be in D3 or D2, or maybe another league entirely. When you're trying to decide, well, what school should I run for? You can go to their websites and you can check out their rosters. Who's on the team? Do you like who's on the team? Is this a good fit for you? Look at their schedule. Where do they run or throw? Who do they run or throw against? What schools? What league are they in? Who's in those leagues? What kind of travel do they do? Where do they go? Do they maybe they go to some exciting places on their schedule? And you like that. Maybe they don't. Maybe it's all boring places. You have no interest in going in any of those places. That's another thing to consider. And you also have to want to go to that school. Visit the school. Take a tour of the school. Find out what the school's ranking is on U.S. News and World Report. Read about the school, its profile. Ultimately, can you afford the school? You may be relying on a big track scholarship to be able to afford this school, and you're just not getting that track scholarship. Sorry. And that means you may not be able to afford that school anyway. So, sorry, coach, I can't come here because I can't afford this school anyway. So I can't come here. That happens. That's why you really need to be recruited by more than one school. Get recruited by a handful at least, because you may not find out that ultimately you can't afford the school because of they're not giving you enough track scholarship money or whatever reason. You talk to financial aid to figure out I can't go here anyway. Sorry. So you better have some other schools on your list. Just like, any other high school senior, they should have a list of schools that they're interested in. But you should have a list. A fairly lengthy list, maybe 8, 10 schools you're interested in. Because you never know who you're going to be able to go to and who you won't be able to go to. In the recruiting process, oftentimes, after an informal visit, but before a formal visit, you can ask the track coach, to get you what's called a pre-read. And what that means is the coach can get the admissions office to give you an idea of what your likelihood is of getting into the school. Or he can also get the financial aid office to give you a pre-read of your financial aid. How much money is the school likely to give you in financial aid? So you can find out earlier than all the other applicants to that school, whether you're likely to get admitted and how much money they're likely to give you. So you can get that pre-read information, and that could decide for you whether you can afford this school or not, or whether you're going to get into this school or not. So the decision, could be made right there in a pre-read. So that's very helpful to get pre-reads, because you can eliminate colleges that it's just not going to happen for whatever reason, money, admissions, so that you can focus on the other schools that you are getting recruited by. Now, I find that the biggest problem you're going to have is probably with financial aid. Admissions is really a thumbs up or thumbs down. It's pretty simple. You look good. Pre-read says admissions, you look good. Pre-read says, you don't look good. You need to raise that SAT score 50 points. Right? But it's a pretty simple thing to tell you. Financial aid gets much more complicated because for a financial aid pre-read, you have to have your parents submit their financial information, tax return information, basically the same sort of information school would use in deciding your financial aid package, and tax returns. And financial aid may look at that very, very, very closely, and they may decide that you can pay a lot more than what you think you can pay, and that may be a deal killer right there. Financial aid can kill a lot of recruits because they don't give you the money you expect to get, and whether the athletic scholarship money is going to be sufficient to cover that difference or not, maybe not. There's this concept called stacking. Stacking. Now, some colleges stack their athletic scholarship money, and some colleges don't. And you've got to figure out whether your college does or they don't. You can ask the coach or ask the financial aid office whether they stack or not. And what this means is, once your financial aid is determined, okay, and your need is determined by the financial aid office, and let's say, there's the financial aid office says, well, based on your need, we think you can afford to pay us $15,000 a year. Okay, $15,000 a year, well, that's still a lot of money. So, can I use the athletic scholarship money to offset that $15,000 or not? That's the issue of stacking. If I'm allowed to stack it, then I can take that I can take the athletic scholarship money and use that to reduce that $15,000 net price that the financial aid offices come up with. If I'm not allowed to stack, then I'm stuck with that $15,000. Period. The athletic money is not going to offset that $15,000. And in fact, if you got the athletic money, that would just be used to offset some of the grant money or scholarship money, academic scholarship money, that's part of the financial aid package. But it's not going to reduce the net price. So in that sort of situation where a school doesn't stack, you got to wonder why they even offer athletic scholarship money to begin with, because it doesn't make any difference ultimately in the bottom line, right? If I could get the money through academics as opposed to athletics, it's still the same amount of money. I still end up with the same net price. So what difference does it make? How are you helping me with athletic scholarship money when it doesn't change the net price? So, some colleges stack athletic scholarship money. It will reduce the net price. Some colleges don't stack athletic scholarship money. It won't reduce the net price. You're stuck with that net price, regardless of whether you get athletic scholarship or money or not. So that's really important to know. Frankly, grant money is better than athletic scholarship money, because athletic scholarship can always be pulled if you get injured and you can't run anymore. Whereas grant money is not going to get pulled. That's based on how much earnings your parents make and you make, and you don't have to do anything for that money. That's actually better money. Or you have academic scholarship money versus athletic. Well, academic scholarship money, sometimes you can lose it if you don't maintain a certain GPA. But maybe your odds of maintaining that GPA are much, much better than, let's say, getting possibly injured in running and losing an athletic scholarship. course, some college coaches will say, "Oh, I'm never going to pull your athletic scholarship." Well, that's an important question to ask them. But depending on whether the school stacks or not, it may be the difference between whether athletic scholarship has any real value at all. You may be thinking, "Oh, athletic scholarship money." Yeah, but if the school doesn't stack, it may just be a label attached to some money it could have gotten through grants or through academic scholarships. It really is meaningless. So that's a big question. Does the school stack or not? And there's really no easy way to get that answer besides asking the financial aid office or the coach to give you that answer. And sometimes they don't even understand the question. And you may have to go through an explanation to try to get them to understand what you're talking about. So, let's say you get into a meeting with one of these college coaches and you're trying to figure out how much they really want me. Because the more they want you, the more they're likely to give you. And, you may get the feeling that you're not a top prospect. They want you, but you're not a top prospect. So that means probably not going to give you a lot of money, if any. Well, maybe you're wasting your time. But getting recruited is you're going to have to jump through the hoops, and a lot of it is wasted time with schools that you ultimately are not going to go to. Remember, you can only go to one. One's going to win, and the rest are going to lose, right? So you can only pick one. That's it. So eventually these schools are going to have to drop off your list. You're going to have to eliminate them because you only pick one. So, you have an interview with the coach. Maybe you get the feeling, maybe, I was thinking I might be a miler or maybe a 3K runner. And this coach is talking about 5Ks and 10Ks. All right, so you're not that high on his prospect list if he's got you in these races that the better runners, they don't want to run because they're too long. They just don't want to run. So he needs somebody to run because he can't score points on these. So he'll use you. Well, that also means you're not a top prospect. You're also not likely to get anywhere near as much money as the top prospects would get. You have the meeting and you check out the facilities. Do you like the facilities? Are they nice? New, maybe? Do you like the school? Do you like how they treat athletes? Maybe on the overnighter, you talk to some of the athletes and find out how much they like the school or how much enthusiasm they have for it. You go on these trips. There's nothing like visiting with the coach and visiting the school that tells you how much you're really going to like a place or not. I mean, you can't really get any better information than that. So you should do it. Remember, it can only be one school. So the more you know about each school, the more confident you can be in crossing some of them off your list for whatever reason and focusing on other ones. But don't forget about the biggies. Can you be admitted to the school? Are you going to get in? And can you afford it? It's another biggie. Because if the answer isn't yes to both those questions, you're not going to the school. And you should pick one of the other ones that's on your list, right? Schools have different levels of prospects. They got scholarship prospects, top prospects, and then they got like preferred walk-ons. Yeah, we'll recruit you, but we're not giving you any money. But we're going to recruit you, and we'll treat you like you're a member of the team. Preferred walk-ons, and then you got actual walk-ons, people who basically they weren't recruited, but they get on the team nonetheless. But if you're one of those people, coaches are going to favor the people that are scholarship athletes. in terms of what races they get in and how much training they get, because the coaches have invested money, school's money, in this person, and they want to. The school wants to make sure, and they want to make sure that they're getting their money's worth. So those people who are there, it didn't cost them anything to get on the team. The coaches aren't going to pay that much attention to those people, generally speaking. Um, so if you are a walk-on, or even a preferred walk-on, understand that your status on the team is not going to be at the highest level, and it won't be for 4 years. It just won't be. And you never know who they're going to get next year or the year after that. They may bring in some tremendous talent, and your status on that team drops even lower. That can happen. So are you going to be happy in that sort of situation? Is that okay with you? It may be, because you're getting in such a great school, you don't really care. That's fine. But maybe not. But, you think about these things in advance. You may when you're visiting out there, you may want to look at, how does the university treat the track and field athletes? Always go into the college bookstore and buy yourself a shirt with that team's logo and name on it. Maybe it even says, cross country or track and field, because that's your one opportunity to get the shirt that you might wear on signing day. Because on signing day, usually at a high school, they sit you down at a table, they take pictures, and you're wearing the shirt or maybe the hat of the school that you're going to go to. It's a publicity event. It's fun. You want to do it. But you got to have the shirt to be able to do that. So buy everyone you go to, everyone you visit, buy a shirt. And you go to the bookstore and, if you're looking for a shirt that says cross country on it or track and field, and they don't have them, but they have others that say, lacrosse or, field hockey or something. Well, that tells you something, doesn't it? The university thinks so little of your sport that they're not even bothering to buy shirts to sell at the bookstore with your sport's name on it. Do you want to go to that school? Are you going to be a big athlete on campus, or is basically no one going to care that you're even on the track and field team? I visited one school with my daughter, and I looked at the school. They had a school magazine, and it was a preview of the fall sports for that particular university. And I'm like, okay, well, let me see what it has to say about cross country. So I open it up, and I'm looking for cross country, and it's not in there. There's other sports in there, but I'm looking. It's not in this book. There isn't even a preview about it. This is what they're handing out to the student body. Oh, the school doesn't even have, a preview of your sport in its own publication. How much respect does the school really have for your sport? Not a lot. Not a lot. Do you want to be on that team? It's almost just like you're not even on a team as far as the student body is concerned. Well, I didn't know we had a cross-country team. Is that a situation acceptable to you? It may be, depending on the circumstances, but maybe not. That's the only thing you got to consider. Another thing when you have these coaches meetings, they're sort of like job interviews, really. You want to be excited. You want to, in the back of your mind, you may know, I'm probably not going to this school, but in the front of your mind, make it seem like you're coming to this school, or you're really interested in this school. Because if the coaches sense that you're really not that interested in this school, they may write you off the list right there. So, fake being very interested in this school. Or if you are interested in this school, Let it show. Let it show. Because the coach wants to know, how interested are you in coming to my school? Am I wasting my time with you? Is my time better spent with some other prospect who really wants to come here? Well, make it seem like you really want to come there. Maybe you really do want to go. So he thinks that you have that interest level. Otherwise, he'll just write you off. So it's kind of like a job interview. You ask questions. What are you interested in? Ask questions. The more questions you ask, the more the coach thinks you're interested in that school because you're asking questions. If you're not interested in the school, chances are you're not asking a lot of questions, except maybe like, where's the bathroom? That's it. You have any questions? Yeah, where's the bathroom? I've been holding this all day. I mean, that's it. Well, you can't be that interested in that school. So ask a lot of detailed questions, about the academics, the athletics, whatever else you might be interested in. Make the conversation an hour. Good conversation. But in that time, you can also get a sense of who this coach is and what their personality is like. Do you like this person? Does this person care about you? You don't want to run for somebody who doesn't care about you. You're just a piece of meat to them. You're just, somebody to use for certain circumstances for them. They don't care about you as a person. Well, you don't want to you don't want to run for that for a coach who doesn't care about you. Oh God, you can get a feeling about a person through this conversation. Are they very businesslike? It's or is it my way or the highway sort of thing? Are they aloof? And you can tell that this person isn't really going to listen to what I have to say. They're just going to do whatever they want, whatever they think is best. Is this a nice person? How successful is this person? The fact that they're a really successful coach may make up for a lot of personality defects. That's something you got to keep in mind. So, is this coach? Are they honest? Is this a fundamentally honest person, or is this coach, lying through their teeth? Are they like a salesperson? Then if they're a salesperson and they're lying through their teeth, or you get that feeling, then you may not be able to believe anything they tell you. So can you rely on what they told you about the team or what you could expect? Maybe. Some of these coaches are, when it comes to honesty, they're like salespeople or used car salesmen, and they tell you one thing and then it ends up being something else. So you can get a feeling for what kind of person you're dealing with. Another thing with coaching is if you want a promise from the coach that such and such is going to happen, try to get it in writing. Get an email, for instance. Ask them the question in email so they have to reply back to you and answer your question. So you have something in writing, like an email or text, preferably an email, because text you erase. But so that later on, if there's a problem, you can always show them the email. You said this. This is what you said. Or maybe later on, they said something and maybe you want to refresh your memory as to what it was they said, or maybe you misinterpreted something and you go back in the email and you read it again. You see, okay, maybe he did mention that. I'm wrong. Or maybe, he's trying something different than what he told you. Because, a lot of people may want to just tell you something verbally in a phone conversation or face-to-face meeting, in part because there's no record of it. So they could tell you something, but since there's no record of it, you can't prove to them they ever said it. And they'll deny it. I never said that. Oh, you misunderstood. I meant something else, or I said something else. And these are tricks people play. So when you're negotiating, especially with the coach, it's good to get things in writing. Email answers to questions. If they don't want to answer you in email, that tells you something too about how trustworthy this person really is. And you have these meetings with these coaches. That's one of the things you're looking for. Is this person honest? They have integrity, or are they lying through their teeth? Are they salespeople? A lot of coaches are salespeople. Don't kid yourself. They're trying to sell prospects on their team. They're trying to get them in so they can stretch the truth or just lie outright. Be careful of that. Another thing, when you're negotiating with the coach before you actually agree to commit to a school, that's when you have your leverage. That's when you ask the coach, can you do this or that? If you have the leverage, they're going to say yes because they want you to go on their team. The second you're on the team, you say, I'm committed to that team. And now they got you, and they're going to be much less likely to agree to whatever it is you want. So when you're in that position of leverage, use it. If you want some flexibility in your schedule because you want to take a certain type of major, maybe scientific or lab work or something like that. You want some flexibility in your practice schedule. You raise that while you're at the meeting with the coach. So he basically has to say, yeah, I'll allow you flexibility so you can go to your labs, or maybe you want to study abroad your junior year or something like that, and you're like, will you allow me to go study in France during cross-country season my junior year because I really want to do that. That's when you ask that question, when you have leverage. Now, maybe they say yes, maybe they say no. That's up to them and how much they want you on that team. But that's when you ask the question, when you have the leverage. That's when they're most likely to say yes. And if they say yes to some question, make sure you get it in email or in writing so that 2 years go by, you remind the coach, hey, you said I could do this. Some coaches are comparable to used car salesmen, unfortunately. They lie through their teeth and manipulate and play tricks. And, among those tricks might be pressure tactics. They may tell you, well, you really need to apply here early decision. And what does that mean? Well, a lot of schools have early decision programs where you apply to the school early. But if you get in, you've committed to go to that school. You can't go to any other school. Now, they can't force you to go. And there may not be repercussions if you decide I'm not going to go anyway. But there could be repercussions. Plus, it's also, your integrity as well. I mean, if I'm going to go early decision and you let me in, then I promised I would go there. So are you a promise keeper or not? It has to do with your integrity. But there may be pressure tactics like, oh, you need to apply early action. Well, yeah, so you apply early action, you get in, and you got to go on their team, right? They got you. So they may use that as a tactic to get you in. Or maybe it's a legitimate concern because, your GPA and your SAT is not that great, but you have a much better chance of getting admitted if you go early action, if you apply early action. Maybe that's it. Or maybe the coaches, they don't want to have any issues with the admissions office, so they suggest everybody apply early action because that's your best chance of getting in. Generally speaking, people who apply early action have a statistically better chance of getting in the school than those who don't. But it's also a pressure tactic. You may see other pressure tactics, like, we're going to offer you $10,000 in scholarship money. But if you don't take it now, we may give it to somebody else. You know, that's like the used car salesman. Well, you don't buy this car right now, I'm not guaranteeing it's still going to be here tomorrow. They may try that, pull the rug out from underneath you threat. Um, that's telling you something about the coach, isn't it? That he wants to use pressure tactics. That's not honest. But you can see these things. Another tactic is they don't tell you about the money that they're going to offer you until the very end of your formal visit, and maybe they sit you down, but your parents aren't anywhere to be seen because you're a kid, and they know they're going to have an easier time pressuring a child into doing something than parents. Maybe they're trying to exclude the parents from the discussion because they know the parents are going to ask questions and they're going to be more resistant than the kid who's just going to be like, oh, yeah, okay, I'll do whatever you want. So that's another tactic they might use. The whole recruiting process is itself a tactic, isn't it? To suck you in and get you to want to go there. Whether that's right or wrong, that's just the way it is. So you gotta play the game. When you get recruited by a Division I school, you have to join what is called the NCAA clearinghouse, and that costs money. I don't know what it is, $75. But what they basically do is they certify you as eligible to play for a Division I school, which essentially means you're an amateur, and they may require you to submit your high school transcripts, and they'll give you an identification number, and you're going to need that if you're going to get recruited by a D1 school, and you ultimately go to a D1 school. You have to be cleared to do that. So you may want to get that process moving along. Beginning of your junior year, start it up. They have a website which you can go do it all online. It's no big deal, really, but it's something you got to do. When you're considering coaches, you may want to ask yourself, well, who is this coach? Find out about their background. Where do they come from? What prior coaching experience do they have? How successful a coach are they? Maybe you find out, hey, this is a really good coach. And that may be the final selling point on that particular track team, is that I'm going to get this great coach who's going to be able to teach me a lot and make me a much better runner or get me to the level I want to get at. Or maybe you find out the coach, it's not that good. Don't have big expectations. Who knows? But see if you can look at their background. It's an easy thing to do on the internet. You search people and look at their backgrounds. Maybe start with the bio description of the coach that's probably on the college's track and field website. And you can always do Google and maybe look up articles that mention that coach. You can find some information out about coaches, see what they've done. And, most of these teams, they have a head coach and they got assistant coaches. So it may be the head coach that decides whether you're on the team or not, but it's the assistant coach who's going to do all the training for you. So do you like the assistant coach? Who's the assistant coach? Do you do a background search on that person as well? Maybe you like the head coach, but you don't like the assistant coach. That guy's got problems. But that may be the guy that you have to train with, right? That's the guy you're going to see all the time. You sure you want to be with that guy? Maybe not. Maybe this isn't the school for you. Maybe this guy's got problems. Or, you meet them as well during these meetings. Hopefully you meet the assistant coaches. In my experience, I've been impressed with the head coaches, but some of the assistants, shaky people, man. Morally shaky people, I might add. And if this is the person that you're going to be dealing with the most, maybe you don't go to that school because you don't like that assistant coach. They give you, there's something creepy about them, or they give you the chills, or you don't feel as if they really care about you at all. Do you really want them as your coach? No. Maybe you really love the school and you'll deal with them. You'll put up with them because of that. Maybe you really like the team and you'll deal with so-and-so coach because you really like the team. It's a decision you're going to have to make. You can also go online and check out any news stories you can, or any videos or updates about the particular team. Get a sense of what the team does and who's on the team, and that can give you more information about whether you want to be on this team or not. When you're trying to get yourself recruited, you want to build excitement about yourself. The more excitement there is about you, the more likely a coach is going to want you on their team. Who doesn't want the exciting prospect, right? But if you're a boring prospect, it's like, I'll take him, I'll leave him, I don't really care. So build some excitement about yourself. Have you been PRing a lot? Or all your best times when you were a freshman, but as a junior you just kind of went downhill? Well, maybe you were good as a freshman, but what are you like now? So your PRs really should be in your junior year. You're showing that you're progressing. You're going this way instead of that way. That'll build excitement. Did you win any big races? Right, that builds excitement. Did you place well in races? Because the coaches can look at your milestone profile and they can figure out what you've been doing in high school. And if it looks like you're a winner, you're a star, and you're going up, that's exciting. They're going to watch you. So you want it to kind of look like that. Get some excitement. People, athletes. Why do people get excited about athletes? Spectators, for instance, because they like winning, and they associate themselves with an athlete who they think is a winner, because it makes them feel like a winner, because they're rooting for you. They're a fan of you. Most people aren't fans of people who are losers, or people who are only so-and-so in their sport, because it doesn't make them feel good. They like to root for winners. So the more you can make it look like you're a winner, the more people are going to be interested in you and are going to want to be your fan, including the coaches who are thinking of putting you on their team. So you build that kind of excitement, and remember that how people, you're only as good as your last race. So if you won your last race, they love you. Put together a string of wins or good places, good times. You're going like this. They're gonna like you because they think, oh, this guy's gonna win. This is exciting. Create some excitement about yourself. When you talk to these coaches, try to impress them with your knowledge of running, or your work habits. You run a lot of miles. You work out a lot. What are your practices like? Do you take it seriously? Do you understand your sport well? Almost like a coach. Do you understand it to the level of a coach? Almost. Do you have special shoes? Do you are you really committed to the sport? Do you try to recruit other people to get onto your team? All that knowledge that you have about your sport will come across during these meetings with the coaches, and because they want somebody that they know is going to come on the team and wants to run. because it takes a lot of work to run track and field in college, and they want to make sure that you're really committed to it. Because if you don't put in all the work, you're never going to be any good on their team. So they don't want somebody who just wants to get into the school and then they're going to just sit on the team and do nothing. Because fundamentally they don't really care that much about running. So the more you know about running, the more you do in running, the more committed you are to running, the more they like you. Because you're the type of person who's going to run when you get on this team, and you'll overcome adversity. And they're looking for that. Something else that can help you in recruiting is, do you know somebody who's already on the team? And then you made that connection. Make sure the coach knows about that connection. Um, that person can put a good word in for you. Another thing you can do is maybe you know some track star, and that star is being recruited by some school. Well, you can mention that fact to the coach for that school. And they'll look at you a little differently because now they know you know this person and you might have some impact on whether this person comes to run for them. So that's some leverage you might have that can help you in negotiating with this particular coach. Maybe it gets you on the team. It may be as a walk-on only, but it may get you on. Get you on. Um, College recruiting is a long process. Uh, you can start the process early in your junior year and not finish it until um, you know maybe midway in your senior year, and it takes quite a bit of effort and a lot of visiting schools and researching schools and submitting emails and recruiting questionnaires and following up with coaches and talking to them and interviewing with them. But you're also doing this at the same time you're doing your typical college search. I mean, you'd be doing a lot of this stuff anyway, visiting schools that you might be interested in going to. So you kill two birds with one stone. You might be interested in the school just because you like the school, and you may want to run there. So when you go on your college visit, you're really, you're killing two birds with one stone. You may go there just because you like it, and so you're visiting, but you're also visiting because you're interested in running there. So you're looking at the school for that reason as well. Um, I think it's important not to have uh, overly optimistic expectations about recruiting. I don't think track and field offers um, full scholarships nearly as much as people may think it does. And those scholarships ultimately may not even matter. Maybe the financial aid at the school is so good that you don't even need scholarship money or athletic scholarship money. Or maybe the school doesn't stack their athletic scholarship money. So ultimately it doesn't affect the net price anyway. Um, or maybe you're just looking to get into that good school and you're using athletics, track and field as a way to get noticed by the admissions office to get in. Um, I think you got to be realistic. Understand that it's really the times you've run and whether you've run those gold or silver elite times that are really going to get a lot of interest from coaches. If you haven't run those elite times, you're not going to get interest from coaches from really good schools. You may get interest from coaches from schools that basically anybody could go run for anyway if they desired to. As far as college recruiting goes, you really, really have to focus on those elite times. I mean, that's That's what's going to get you the interest. If you don't do that, then you're pretty much out of luck. Unless you just want to run at a mediocre school with a mediocre team. Maybe that's all you want to do anyway. That's fine. Maybe, ultimately you don't have the talent to be able to run those elite times. And that's your only choice, is to run for a school that'll let you walk on, or who will let basically anybody join if they want. And that may be fine for you. And maybe track and field really isn't all about college, what college team you're going to run on. But for those elite runners, recruiting is not that really. It's really not that hard using the internet. You can do it yourself and get a lot of interest. You can get a whole stack of letters from different colleges that want to recruit you. Unbelievable numbers of emails from coaches constantly. That's another thing. You can fill out the recruiting questionnaire for any given school more than once. Maybe you filled it out at the end of your sophomore year, and you didn't get any response. And then maybe your junior year, you ran much better times. You ran gold elite, maybe, or silver elite, and you want to let that college know that you did that. So how do you do that? Well, submit the recruiting questionnaire again, a second time. There's no rule that says you can only submit it once. You can submit as many times as you want. And maybe you'll get the coach to look at it again. A second time they'll look at it. They may not even remember you submitted it the first time. But this time they look at it and they say, oh, she ran gold elite in this event. Oh, I'm interested in that now. So all of a sudden you get an email from the coach. You can submit the recruiting questionnaire as many times as you want. Something new or important happened, submit it again so that they know that it happened. Don't assume that they're following you, because they're not. They're not following you. Unless you're on their prospect list, they're not following you. So take the initiative. It doesn't cost you anything. Send them another recruiting questionnaire, or send them an email. Find out what the coach's email is and send them an email. What's the worst that's going to happen? He'll ignore you. He or she will ignore you. You'll get spammed. Ooh, who cares? Just do it. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't matter. What's going to hurt? You may have nothing to do with that coach ever again. What harm does it do? It doesn't do any harm at all. You might as well give it a shot. See if they have some interest in you or not. You can also, some of these coaches will send you emails. They seem interested to you, but you know that there's a sticking point that you're just not going to get past. And maybe you act boldly. You reply back to them and you tell them what the sticking point is. Are they going to do this for you or not? Maybe you're like, I need a $10,000 scholarship. Is that something that's even in the realm of possibility for you guys? Send it to them. Maybe they're not ready to discuss money, but you can ask. See if they get, because what's the harm? Maybe if they don't reply, you write them off the list. You don't even think of them ever again. But maybe they do reply and say, oh yeah, by the way, we could offer that kind of money if you're good enough. Well, then maybe you get the ball rolling on a particular school. Emails don't cost you anything. No one's going to hold it against you. You may never see these people ever again. So what difference does it make? It doesn't make any difference. Go for it. I think that's about it for recruiting, track and field. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Please also press the subscribe button. I appreciate it. So take care, everybody.